live with my mother, a single parent on welfare, trying to rise above the struggle. The second part of my life I live with my grandmother. She used to cook me breakfast, lunch, and dinner. She told me keep my head in the sky, yeah, be a winner. My great grandpa Steve used to take me school, shopping and out to dinner. Yeah, I remember them family barbecues, cruising around Bella Park, tasting my favorite Aunt Patricia and Clark. She used to sit me and my cousins together and tell us we ain't cousins, we really brother. It's a blessing. Now that we grown, we tougher than ever. Even if it go from bad to worse, it's still where we hurt. Make sure my baby girl tight, and make sure that I fed my first family first. Let's start the game over. Back to the way things were. It's all about the kids, so put your family first. Let's start the game over. Back to the way things were. It's all about the kids, so put your family first. Take it back, start the game over. It's in me. Things give me motivation, so I'm rocking my head. Listen, don't have a wish. Let them know it's more to life than block living. Focus on yourself and stop all that hate. I know you want that money, but you gotta be patient. Remember which way to your heights, college graduation, living the life, everyday money making. I wanna take it back to Sunday dinner. Collard greens and fried chicken. Now when grandma is posted up in the kitchen, I'm sitting next to dining table, right to say my blessings. Now I feel like there's something is missing. It wasn't about taking, it was all about getting. Back in the days, they really knew how to live, because everything they do was strictly for the kids. Let's start the game over. Back to the way things were. It's all about the kids, so put your family
shout out to the EMIY Future Leaders, the board, the advisory board, our team, the parents, the whole entire community wanted to share the work. We constantly are sharing the work, the solution. We continue to do so. So today we just kicked it off that way. So we're going to give it up today. Also, I hate to share just a bit. Pray for the Keith Hines and his family as they have lost their daughter. My prayers goes out to them, as yesterday was the anniversary of losing my niece in this city. This city is taking a lot of lives, and it has been. It's a lot of talk and not enough action, and we know the symptoms far too well, and it's unfortunate to see that someone else has lost their daughter, and someone else has lost their child. So our prayers go out to Keith Hines and his family. Today the conversation continues. It's Mental Health Awareness Month, and we wanted to continue the conversation around how families can help with mental health awareness. Sorry about that, Book. In the building is L Book, and of course the Queen. The Queen is in the building today. Dave is doing his internship as he comes closer and closer to his doctor, and so I want to welcome everybody in today. As we, that's a nice little hookup you got on there.
Thank you so kindly.
Okay. That's what's up. I see you in here flossing. So right. So I wanted to take this time to actually really get into some topics on how family can help. Later on, we'll tell a story again about 15 years of work, and so we're going to put some good information out here to share, right? To share with you some tools that you can use with your family, signs and things that you can recognize. So, how you doing, Heather?
I am doing awesome after such a full and enriching weekend, taking in of culture and our boys, and seeing how our families' influence on our boys show up with them when they're not with their parents. It's been an awesome weekend with EMIY Future Leaders, the mentors, and EMIY supporters who happen to be moms and aunts and cousins and friends of the program, and dads as well. So it's been a really fulfilling weekend. It's been a fulfilling week for me. So I had 2 workshops last week, one on Thursday, one on Friday, and then the experiential learning adventure to Washington, D.C. with our EMIY Future Leaders. So it's been ongoing nonstop for me since Wednesday. And so I'm happy to be here on Monday to talk about it.
Okay, awesome. Brother Book, you hiding over there behind the doing your thing. Right? So how was your weekend? I heard you put on a nice little show. How did it go?
Oh, I had a good weekend. It was busy, full of events. I had 4 events this weekend, so
Wow.
it was pretty busy.
That's
And
what's
an anniversary.
Yep, and I had a wedding anniversary that I kind of got to celebrate, but not really. But we still got time.
Right. A whole year for year 2.
Yeah, so I mean, it was good. We had a good time yesterday. We got rained on, but we kept the show going, and quite a few people stuck it out through the little rain showers that we had last night, and they rocked with us till we ended. So it was good.
Blessing.
good.
Yeah.
So congratulations, happy anniversary. I want to get right into the conversation around recognizing some things that families can do during this time and this month, right? Signs you can recognize around mental illness, right? There are some things that you can do to help your families. And so I really want to start out as one of the first things that they say is getting help for your literally getting help early for mental illness. So, they were saying that, sometimes what happens is we ignore the signs of mental illness, and getting help for mental illness is very important. One of the things that they say as we go through this process, one of the things they say is no one is to blame, right? They say do not blame someone for mental illness, because there are all kinds of things that can cause it. There are chemicals, there are foods, there is salt, sugar, there is peanuts, there is a number of things that can cause you to have a mental breakdown, a mental illness breakdown where you need help. Sometimes caring for a family member or friend can be overwhelming, and it can be helpful to seek support from a support group. So even those of us that are help, I need some help. I just spent the weekend with some kids. And as much as I love children, which I do, it was live, right? And so I really needed to take me a break. So tomorrow I'm gonna take me a break and get me some rest and some RR, after my workout. But I'm gonna really take a break tomorrow. Even my son said, "You know what, Dad?" He said, "Dad, you know what?" He said, "Man, I know you want some grandkids, but I'm here to tell you, I won't be giving you any." So that was just, that's just one of the things that, he did such a great job. Looking forward to Emmy Future as lead as well. But getting back to the getting help early for mental illness. One of the things they tell you in getting help for mental illness is encourage the person to speak to a doctor about their concerns. A lot of times we do not go to the doctor, especially as men. We're starting to get better at that. I'm seeing more men at the doctor's office. We're starting to get better, because we want to be here. Take better care of our prostate and diet and things like that. So I'm starting to see a lot more men take better care of themselves, but we have to get the help. So that's one of the things that they say. The other one is it's normal to feel a range of emotions, right? When you have reactions or you see someone going through mental illness. I was just speaking about my friend who I literally was thinking about his family, right? Coming off what my nieces went through, and I was really thinking about him. And so I just opened up my Facebook page, and there he was talking about that his daughter is gone. And I mean, like, literally, that's tough on a family when you lose a child. A lot of parents, they see themselves going before their children, and when you lose a child, it's very, very tough, right? It's tough on the psyche. It can make you angry. Like I said, guilty. You can feel fear, sadness. You can do a number of things that will cause you to be reactionary. You will react. And in this case, I'm sure wherever and whatever he finds out about his daughter, we're going to have to talk him down. And the law just don't get solving these murders in our community and the people. We're all that's a whole nother conversation. So, Ms. Heather, what do you have when it comes to getting getting help early for mental illness?
Well, the first thing I would like to talk about and share is about strengthening your relationships. If you're not having conversations, so I'm going to give you my 3. So under strengthening relationships, I believe that we need to we need communication, we need celebration, and we need regulation. And so as far as communication, we need to be able to know who our family, who our friends, who those people really are. We tend to put a label or a stereotype on somebody based on the role they have in our lives. We call our children, and we don't consider that children have stress and stressors. We don't consider that they have a voice. There are some things that we don't consider because of the generation maybe that we are a part of. So the more that we communicate with them, the more we build relationships with them, the more we understand who they are. But you can't do that if you're not communicating. That means understanding and recognizing body language. That helps us to recognize signals when something is not right or when they're not feeling, their best. And that can lead to another conversation. What's going on with you? How was school? Kind of looking at some of the areas around them and seeing how their body language is reacting to your questions. That's one. And then when you see changes in their personality or changes in their conversation, that's another signal. But if you're not communicating with them and you're not getting to know them, you'll not know those things. So communication is really important to strengthening relationships so that we can recognize those symptoms and signals when they're alerting us to something going on. The second thing is really celebrating people. Celebrate our people. People so often feel unappreciated. They feel not accepted. They feel not a part. And when you recognize, and that could just be in a form of acknowledging somebody, acknowledging something valuable to them, not just to you, and their value to you, not just to them. Recognizing that that person in your life is in your life for a reason, and that reason is partly to bring value, but also partly to show you and to teach us a lesson about who we are in these circumstances. So when we see certain behaviors, how do we respond to that behavior? And so part of celebrating a person is celebrating their milestones, celebrating their changes and their attempt to change. All of those different ways that we can celebrate, besides birthdays, besides weddings, besides graduations, besides proms and things like that. There are other ways in our everyday life that we can celebrate others. Again, around strengthening those relationships and helping people feel valued, so that when it comes time for having tough conversations or recognizing a crisis in motion, that we have the type of relationship that they will honor your intervention. And that's really important. And then the last point under strengthening families and relationships is around regulation. Okay, how do you set boundaries? Even with our children, if we don't set boundaries of our expectations of their behavior, of setting boundaries around spending, like you're not going to get a $700 pair of shoes. We have to establish that boundary, and we have to explain why, not just because it's too much, but why is it too much? What is the comparison between a $700 pair of shoes and the expenses that you have to pay, like food and rent and gas to get back and forth? Helping our kids to understand and regulate those types of behaviors and expectations also helps them to build and reduce the amount of stress that they may be experiencing. So we want to make sure that we're regulating boundaries as well as activities and behaviors, and remembering that we have to help children make good decisions, not adult decisions. Very important way to regulate our expectations around our children. You can't ask your child if they want to go to school. That's not a healthy boundary. What you can ask them is within appropriate range of what you have to wear. What do you want to wear to school? What do you want to achieve today? What do you want to learn today? We can give them choices like that, but they should not have a choice about whether they go to school or not. That's an adult choice that we have to make on their behalf. So part of regulating for parents and adults is being able to make sure that we can regulate the difference between a child's decision and an adult's decision, because we can put so much pressure on them and ourselves that we create a level of stress and crisis. We can throw them into a crisis expecting them to be an adult when they're not.
Yes. This is where we interrupt this program to you parents. Please stop allowing your children to make adult decisions. Please. Giving kids an alternative just so you can go have fun to make adult decisions is not healthy at all. You're overparenting. The other part is you need to make sure that, especially, we need to make sure where they are spending their time, because where they spend their time is where you're going to find most of the issues. So you got to watch where they spend their time, because it's important that they're constantly learning. This society is moving faster and faster and faster, and you need to be learning at a pace so your kids and your families have the tools to compete, to talk, to share, to grow, as well as lead, right? So that's important. Here's one of the things that I want to talk about, Ms. Heather, that goes into this mental health piece. It's taking care of yourself, right?
Absolutely.
Some of the things they say when you are involved in this, you want to learn as much as possible. When you're taking care, you want to learn as much as possible about mental illness. As families, we can get involved into this conversation and we can help. So learn as much around this subject as possible so you can recognize the signs if something is wrong. We don't have to be passive either in understanding that we're developing a child or a friend or a cousin. Me, I have a tendency to be the word is 100, keeping my word or not sugarcoating. Those are some of the things that I do. I'm going to talk direct. I don't want to sugarcoat it because I need you to understand how important what I'm saying is. And that's the same thing in developing our children. That's the same thing as in developing relationships. We got to get out of these spaces of telling lies and things like that. As a culture, just right now on the mental illness situation right now, as a culture, we're reaping. When you have murder, you reap murder. So when we're yelling and screaming about what's happening around males and what's going on, these are some of the things that to me falls into this mental illness category where we continue to think that there's nothing wrong with this. Like we're saying, okay, this is a problem, but this has been a problem for 50, 60 years. And we know what one of the main significant pieces to what contributes to murder. The statistics, everything bears out. You can't prove it any other way, but we got to do a better job of keeping fathers involved in our children's lives. We are doing a poor job at that. Anyway, the other one is find out if their education, training, and courses that for carers, for people who need to care. Good job, Tanisha. This is one of the things that we need to understand. It's about care. Do you care? Sure, you say I love you, but is there any care, right? And so that's some of the things that we want to make sure that we cover as well. Taking care of yourself. Love yourself. Everything tells us to love ourselves first before I can apply love to someone else, right? So that's another thing. And then understand the symptoms you may come up on. That's number 3. Understanding the symptoms that you may come upon. Recognize that everybody that's on Facebook and everybody, some people are really, really hurting, right? And Facebook might be their only outlet, or, they're being, just like, murder, period. Like, that's just one of the biggest issues the United States is facing right now, between murder, suicide, and suicide is taking more lives than murder. That's crazy. So I just, those are the 3 things that I want to talk about in Touch Your Care. What say you, Queen?
My number 2 thing I'd like to talk about, or commenting on yours?
Your number 2 thing. I like what you say. You like what I say. We keep it 100.
So, number 2 on my list is to recognize major life stressors. So there's a whole scale, there's a whole psychology and movement around recognizing stressors. So I'm just going to give a few that are right now at the top of the list. So divorce, loss of a spouse, loss of a close family member, that could be a child, being fired or losing a job, jail or prison, illness and injury. Retirement actually is up there, and so is marriage, especially when you're blending families. Those are some of our major life stressors. So we have to be mindful when these things are taking place, that we have to also make sure that we have security measures in mind. That means, going back to my 3 again, being able to communicate with your spouse, being able to communicate with someone who you can seek wise counsel from, communicating with somebody that can help you navigate some of the difficulties. So when we're talking about being fired or losing a job, you want to make sure you're talking to some type of job coach. Help you to find the next step, not to revert back to this step that you just had taken, or have, that you may have had a misstep. We want to move forward. We only want to look back for reflection, not for action. Because the action that you want to take behind
Say that again. Say that again. Woo! There you go. There you go. That was hot. Say that again. We only want to
look back for reflection and not action.
Woo!
Yeah, so looking back for action is money already spent. So you're already accumulating a debt, and we don't want to pay that debt forward. What we want to do is have new, fresh resources as we look forward. So looking forward with a job coach, a personal change coach, a life coach, someone who can help you redirect your path, because that means if you're no longer there, that means that your season has ended in that space. For whatever reason it may have ended, now it's time for you to think anew. You have this opportunity to think about what you want to do, what you want to be, what you want to accomplish, and that's at any age. So don't get too far caught up in the stress of losing the job and the things that we're experiencing as losses, but understanding that there are chain reactions for whatever major life stressor we're facing. But there are also solutions for those things.
Right.
And if we're looking deeply enough, we can start to see and navigate that space for really what it's showing us. It's not taking away, it's attempting to add to us. Some things we may not have seen that were not healthy. Maybe some people were working themselves excessively to the point of their health. And now they have this separation from that amount of stress on the job. So just using that as an example. So again, number 2 for me is recognizing your major life stressors, and then only looking back for reflection, not for action, looking forward to whatever that area is that you need that level of expertise or wise counsel to seek that and move forward. Same thing for divorce, same thing for grief and loss. Look forward and let someone who is a professional in that area help you navigate the new space that you're going into.
Right, because you're getting ready to do another workshop here soon. That's what's up on surviving divorce, how you can get better coming out of divorce and get the man that you need, getting the tools that you need to have a better spouse, and the selection process. Here's another thing, and it comes down to this other one comes back to what we talked about before, which is the suicide, right? So understanding how the suicide is impactful, how are we recognizing the signs? We already did a whole show on signs with suicide and recognizing the signs of suicide. And in that process, being able to really, like you say, navigate some of your symptoms.
Yes.
Being able to reach out to a friend or someone that you could talk. You guys would be amazed at how many calls we get, right? And you can't handle them all, right? There are tons of calls coming in. Like one day, I won't even have a call center for dads, literally, where dads can call in. There are so many fathers that's hurting and fighting for their children. They don't have an outlet. And we know even with the divorce, the signs, and suicide, men are very impactful. I talk about men, ladies and gentlemen, again, because I'm a man. 100%. M-A-N-N. There's no tiptoeing around who Calvin Man is, right? So I'm very, very serious about these things and how important men really are to the element, to the community, and to the world, right? And so that's why I'm always talking about it. But with this mental illness awareness month, we took on this subject because you as family members, you can really help each other.
Yes.
We have to get out of the space of saying family ain't no good. Family ain't S-H-I-T. Family don't do this, because we put an expectation. But family comes with love. And when you got that, I think you got a little bit more than always having to go to family and asking them for a loan. Hey, while y'all out there, I need a loan, right? I need a loan. You can't give me $1,500? Well, I mean, I've been watching you. Your $1,500, you might not be too responsible to give me back that $1,500. I love you. I know you're in trouble, but I got to be smart with my money too, right? We got to understand that family is not some place that you go, you could just get a loan and walk away and then talk bad about them. You're going to reap that. We got to stop reaping. Mm-hmm. That's a big thing. What you sow into other people and what you take from other people, it's going to come back. I'm telling you, and I've seen it. I personally have visited this island, and it's not fun. It's a heck of a fight when you get caught up in your your reaping cycle. Hey, I got better. See that word cycle? I use cycle this time, right? Your reaping cycle, right? So let's managing your aggressive behavior. What do you got on that, Miss Queen?
In terms of how we're experiencing our stress.
Yeah, how we can help stress, aggressive behaviors, managing our aggressive behaviors with family, friends. You're helping someone, so you got to be able to help them manage their aggressive. You kind of talked on that and touched on some of those things and where to get help. If you can share some of those things, because we, even on our EMIY World website, we have the partner
crisis numbers.
Yeah,
yes.
we partner with the crisis hotline for suicide. They gave us permission to share it and be a part of it if we need anything. So we kind of keep them in the loop on all that's happening. CNS Healthcare. If you go to cns.org, cns.org.
Yes.
Right? cnshealthcare.org.
And I'm going to give you those numbers in case you miss our website. So CNS Healthcare, you can reach them at 855-907-2422. Again, that's 855-907-2422. That's CNS Health. If you need to set up an appointment, you need to seek that wise counsel. You need to help someone or yourself that has reached their crisis, the elevated crisis mode. You want to help them to de-escalate by helping them navigate that resource. And then for the suicide prevention hotline, that number is 800-273-8255. Again, that's 800-273-8255. That's the crisis, the suicide prevention hotline. So please feel free to reach out to either of those numbers to seek your wise counsel, seek the intervention, and don't be afraid to do something. Even calling the number for you because you are witnessing some things take place, call either number. Either one and either way, they can help you to navigate where you are, even as someone watching it unfold in somebody else's life that you care about. So part of the action and expectation around families is that there is someone who can act on your behalf. And sometimes we have to make really tough decisions about that we're sharing that somebody else is in a crisis, or that someone else has reached a point of crisis, that it's been so much trauma and turmoil and discontent in their lives that they're not able to see it for themselves, and maybe they're in denial. Right. Maybe you have seen the shifts and the changes, and maybe they're now using substance abuse. Maybe they're, using alcohol to escape, or marijuana to escape, or other types of drugs to escape whatever reality or trauma that they're trying to process. When you see someone doing that, that is a sign, a cry, a symptom that they need some additional help, because the way that they're trying to help or cope with whatever the crisis that they're facing is, they're coping, they're not addressing it. That means we're not addressing it at the root cause. We're trying to cover it up. We're trying to medicate it. We're trying to escape it, but you never can escape. And we don't want to address symptoms. We want to address solutions. That means something that is the root cause of whatever the trauma or turmoil that you're facing, or crisis that you're facing, why that's happening.
Wow. Yes. And there's plenty of information out there for us, right? There's plenty of information out there for you. You can just hit Google, and I guarantee you anything on mental illness is going to come up, right? But I think we need to, the other part about this mental illness, we have to cultivate better relationships. As, the Queen said earlier. The Queen said earlier, right? We got to cultivate better relationships, communication. Where you got one person at odds, you got the other person, somebody's got to be sane in the beef, right? This is to the mothers and fathers where they're beefing about the child. The child loves you both, right? And so you got to come to a co-parenting place where you guys can be in the same room and be sane. It's very difficult when people don't want to communicate with you. I lived it and live it, right? We're the opposite. We're just not having that communication. So you got to keep the prayer on your situations. One of the things I stress to families, friends, and all, praying and fasting.
You got to.
the first 7 days of every month and apply it to what your problem is and stay in that lane. God will reveal you an answer. We have to do a better job of that. We have to do a better job of just saying hello.
Right.
A simple hello. Melvin Dakers, who's in Good Fathers Only, who runs him and Dave runs the Lean on the Father segment, which is a powerful thing. We always, the last Saturday of a month, Lean on the Father, where we're having conversations. Men come to vent, share, get things off, and we're there usually to pray with them, to have conversation with them, walk them through, because every man on the call has a different experience that may help your experience. And so one day, God moved on Melvin's heart. God was walking down the street, and Melvin pulled over and asked him, say, hey, you need anything? Just asked him, how you doing? Do you need anything? And the guy was in the middle of contemplating harming himself. He just needed a ride. So, of course, in this city it's dangerous, in this state it's dangerous, of course, but when God moves on your heart, God protects you in these situations. Man, I've seen some amazing stories about somebody just saying hello.
Yes.
You never knew what you was doing to me when you said hello. You never know what you're doing for me when you say hello. A simple hello sometimes breaks up a lot of things. So, hello, how you doing? Right? Hey, what's up? Hey, what's going on, brother? Right? Oh, it's almost story time. It's almost story time, right? And this one is recent. What time is it? How much, what we got? 15. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. Miss Heather, give your last remedy, and then I'm going to share this story. It's recent. It's powerful because it tells us, right, this right here, we got to be careful what we say, right?
Absolutely.
Because you never know who's paying attention. Did you want to add to this conversation before I tell the story?
Yes. So I do want to talk about, and I'm glad you mentioned that, I do want to talk about the importance of the words that we use and the words that we say. And I've been sharing since December that 2022 is about manifesting. And we have to be really mindful, intentional, and careful about what we say in this year, because what we say is what ultimately is going to manifest. And when we're talking about what we want, not what we don't want, we need to continue to use our words to frame what we want. That also includes into the lives of people that we say that we care about. And I want to share this one quick lesson that I understood around family and around relationships. We tend to believe that we have ownership or possession of our spouses, our mates, our companions, our children, our friends. We claim possession and ownership of them. And that is a missed step when we look at relationships. When you look at true healing, spiritual, and strengthening relationships, we have to look at our relationships, and that's every one of them, with coworkers, with customers. We have to look at ourselves as stewards of that relationship, that we've been entrusted to have this relationships with someone, not to own and not to possess them. And I'm really guilty of that. I grew up in my friendships. I felt like I had possession of my friendships. No, you're my friend. As if you can't have other friends, as if you can't have other companions, or you can't have other children, and you can't have my children. These are my kids. And we have this sense of ownership and possession as if they're things that you paid for, cash, and now own. That is not the mindset we should have with anything, because what we have is stewardship. What we have is taking care of that which we have been entrusted to. So your finances have actually just been entrusted to you. They're not yours. You don't own it. Just like our kids, we don't own them. Our mates, we don't own them. They've been entrusted to us. for us to do our best to care for, nurture, grow them in ways that will ultimately grow us, because that is the seed that you're planting in that relationship, and that's the harvest that you will reap from that relationship. So it is a spiritual principle. Relationships are spiritual principles. And if you're not a good steward of that relationship, what happens is you end up having not so good relationships. And you're wondering, well, why is this happening? Why is this happening? What kind of stewardship are you having over that relationship? You have to be a good steward. That means you have to take a good care of a person and good care with a person. That means that you're speaking life, you're speaking good, you're acknowledging them, you're making them feel valued and appreciated, so that you get those things in return. So there's a prayer by Saint Francis of Assisi, and he says in that prayer, I will seek to understand and to be understood, but I have to understand before I can be understood. So just food for thought, lots to consider as we reframe how we're looking at relationships moving on through 2022. That is those relationships that have also ended. You can end a relationship with a spouse or a friend or a coworker and still be entrusted as a good steward with it. You're entrusted with the steward of the memory of that relationship. You're entrusted as a steward with what you do now from it, what you've learned from it. Be a good steward of your relationships.
Nice. Thank you. You're right. We have to be good at it. So, the story. 15 years, right? So, back in 2000, I say 12, 13, we might be 11. We had 200 boys. I think this is before Zebra Mill Pace. We got 200 boys. We're at Rosedale Park Baptist Church. I'm getting books shipped in from Utah. Right? This is right before we asked the parents of 200 males to fill out the application, and we discovered that the issue was at the home of a lot of people because the parents couldn't fill out the application. So what happened was we started the reading process in our mentoring program. Right? So we're going to have everyone stand up and read a paragraph. Right? And so every time it gets to this one young man, every time he would get the book, right? At this point, my son Cameron is 6. He's 6 years old. And so we asked the young man to stand up and read. So now everybody's watching, and we got boys 18 on down, right? High school boys all the way across the board in the building. And I'm going, okay, this is where we're discovering where the problems really are. And so the young man stands up and he pauses and he doesn't say anything every time. So I'm thinking I'm naive to the game at this point, early. I'm on this whole reading his life thing since then anyway, right? So he says he can't read. After the third time doing this, he finally stands up and he says, I really can't read. I said, okay, who out of all you men are willing to step up to teach him how to read? So every time he comes in here, before he can play basketball, he's going to spend time learning how to read. This very book that we were having shipped in from Utah, from an older pastor, a friend of mine, Calvin, I forget Calvin's last name, who passed away, who was still playing basketball at 80-some years old, right? Mm-hmm. But it was a friend of his who had these booklets that he was using for mentoring, but it teaches you how to read. It helps you read better. Make a long story short, right? So out of all the kids, right, no one wants to step up to teach him how to read. So I said, okay, here you are, 17. I want to pick you. You back there, I want to pick you. And mind you, it's 200 boys. Not one of them want to step up. So I said, I got an idea. Thank you, Miss Jackson. Thank you. I got an idea. I said, Cam, right? I said, since y'all don't want to step up, help him read, right? Cam, come here. He's 6. I said, Cam, take this book. Stand in the middle of everybody and read. So Cam, 6 years old, he takes the book, walks to the middle of the group of 200 boys, and he starts reading. And as he's reading, you know that he's not the average 6-year-old when it comes to reading. Right? So he's reading all these words, big words, it didn't matter. He's reading this book. So you can see the faces on the older guys like, wow, right? So I said, okay, Cam, step out. I said, who gonna step up and read now? So 5 of the guys step up. One of the guys said, man, I can't read like that. I said, but y'all was just sitting in here when the 9-year-old said he couldn't read. Y'all don't want to step up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the time in this program, and everybody, before we play basketball, we all going to learn new words, and we're going to learn to read. Right? Today, in our ME Future Leaders program, this last cohort, not only is our boys reading, they were learning Arabic language, financial literacy, and they were helping each other articulate, answer, right? So everything that I wanted back then has now manifested now. And so all those young men back then, whenever I see them, I could pull up. About 5 years ago, I pulled up to a drive-thru while working at the barbershop. He said, you don't remember me, Mr. Man? I said, what you talking about? I don't remember you. He said, you don't remember me. Mr. Man, you looked out for me, man, when I was at Highland Park High School. I remember I was a sophomore in high school, so and so and so and so. I said, let me see your face. He said, he put his head. I said, I don't remember. I'll never forget round head kids. You got a round head, brother. So you was the brother that was the one of the first 5 people out the stands running toward me to tell me how you wasn't in trouble. What are you doing now? He said, wow. He said, I'm the manager at this White Castle. I said, I'm very proud of you. He said, man, your food is on me. I said, no, I'm going to pay. And I paid. In our relationship, these relationships, you're only, as adults and people, we need to understand that you are only in the middle. You're the one that's passing, right? You're the one that's passing the kid. The kid comes out the womb. The kid runs into daycare. The kid comes out of daycare, builds a relationship with the elementary school teacher. The kid then runs into a mentor or someone who cares. Then you're just passing them along to help them be successful. This is how you destroy the pipeline to prison, by creating more family-centered ideologies. We have way too many me's.
The individual mindset.
The individual mindset that is really impacting. Now you're very comfortable with being alone. So now you have more single people than we do married people, and we have the conversations that is not bringing us together, but constantly pulling us apart, which creates a space and a spiritual warfare to come in. And guess what it's taking? It is taking the lives. It is taking the lives of our children. So to close, Ms. Heather, before I go into my closing, please tell the people where they can reach you at, and would you please tell them about the diverse workshop? So yes, I really appreciate that.
So you can reach out to me through my website, to just look at some of the workshops and trainings and supports that are available. That website is www.yourinspiredjourney.com. Again, that's yourinspiredjourney.com. You can find me on Facebook, on my web page or my fan page. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Blog Talk Radio. You can find any of my books on Amazon and Barnes & Noble under Heather Heteru Miller. I'm happy to have those conversations. My phone number is 313-759-7855. Again, that's 313-759-7855. You can reach out to me those ways. Absolutely. Let's look to connect. I have a series around surviving divorce for women who are looking to strengthen themselves and the relationships that they have, how to look back and reflect without taking the action behind you, but moving it ahead of you so that you can love again, so that you're healthy and well, so that the husband or the mate that you're seeking, or companion even that you're seeking, you can find them in a whole state, just as you're in a whole state. So being able to ask for what you become. I think that's where our real challenge as women is that we want something from a man that we're not for ourselves. So once we start making the adjustments and doing the healing and the self-work, if you want someone who's kind and who's generous and who's intentional about your relationship, then you have to be the same way. So some of those behaviors are learned and some of them are unlearned that have been unhealthy for us in our past relationships. So by all means, reach out. We have one-on-one coaching sessions. If you want a private setting, we have a small group, but we also have other workshops, and you can do some of those online too.
Right. Don't forget, in 2 weeks, there will be another one. Surviving divorce is coming, and you can get that help. Ladies, get that. Come back with that so we can split that. You know what I mean? That's what your man wants. So we closed this conversation as we were in Baltimore yesterday. We were getting food. The kids were in the Chipotle. We were getting ready to leave. My son comes out. He said, Dad, you got to come in and pay for the meal, right? So guy opens the door, comes in, right? And literally, my son gets back in line. I goes around to pay. The guy gets loud. He gets real loud. It's the old, the grandmama who makes the most noise, get the what's name, right? So I say to the brother while he's raising his voice, I say, man, I'm just paying for my mentoring program to eat. He said, this is what came out of his mouth. He said, man, I don't care nothing about no kids. I said, everybody step back. You go ahead, brother. You go first. You get your food so you don't be late for lunch. All the kids is watching. I say, nope. Get out the way. Step back so this brother can go ahead. People who talk like that, you got to let them go. The first thing out of his mouth was he don't care nothing about no kids, and then he tried to twist it up. I got to feed my own kids or whatever. You let that demon go. We let him go first. I was tempted to even pay for his food so he could really get gone. But the process was, in the back was another brother was like, man, calling him out. And I told everybody, be quiet, let this brother go. Why? It's so important. It's so important that you pay attention to how people speak and talk. Because their words, they got to reap them too. So you got to let them go. Don't get in the way of a fool. Bible tells us that all the time. Get out the way. So we got out the way. Let him pay for the food. He was still talking while he was walking out the door. Everybody looking at him. Ain't no telling what's going to happen to that man because his words ain't right. And anytime you don't value children, I most definitely going to let you go by. That includes you, mom, you, dad, you, community. Get yourself together because our children need families to be healthy. My name is Calvin Mann. God bless you and encourage me. Thanks, bud.
Start the game something is missing. It wasn't about taking, it was all about getting. Back in the days, they really knew how to live. Because